Hey guys, what's going on? Today I've got a full review of the Whynter Portable Air Conditioner. This one specifically is rated at 14,000 BTU, but that number doesn't tell the whole story. So I will explain why in just a bit. In this video I'm going to break down all the key features, walk you through the installation step by step, covering a few issues you might run into along the way, and help you figure out if this is the right AC for your space. So let's get into it. Starting with the unboxing, this is the box it comes in. To open it, you just cut the plastic straps and lift the outer box straight up. Mine actually came inside two similar boxes, so I'm guessing that's just extra protection for shipping. Inside, you'll find a smaller box with all the accessories, and of course, the portable AC unit itself. Right out of the box, you'll notice that this unit has an efficiency rating of 7.9. That number might not mean much at first, but it's actually pretty solid when you compare it to other portable ACs. Just to give you an idea, the Black+Decker 14,000 BTU model only has an efficiency rating of 6.2. One of the big reasons this Whynter unit performs better is because it uses a dual host system. That setup works differently and way more efficiently than the single host design you'll find on most portable air conditioners. One thing you might also notice, if you look closely at the fine print, is that the actual cooling capacity is listed as 9,500 BTUs, not 14,000, and that can be a little confusing. The reason for this is because 14,000 BTU refers to the maximum power the unit can draw, but the 9,500 BTU is what's called the seasonally adjusted cooling capacity rating. That number takes into account real-world conditions like heat generated by the unit itself and how well it actually cools a room over time. So when you're figuring out how many BTUs you need for your room, this is the number you should actually pay attention to. And yeah, that might sound a bit low at first, but if you compare it to other portable ACs, you'll see it actually performs better. For example, the Black+Decker 14,000 BTU model only delivers around 8,400 BTUs in real conditions, which is even lower. So in terms of actual cooling power, this Whynter unit is ahead of a lot of the competition. This is the box that comes with all the accessories. The first thing you'll see is a cover for the unit, which is great if you plan on storing it for a while and won't be using it regularly. Then you've got the plastic panels that go on your window. These have two circular openings where the hoses will connect. You also get two exhaust hoses, along with four identical connectors, two of them attached to the window panel, and the other two go on the AC unit itself. They also include two plastic caps to cover the window openings in case you're not using the unit. And finally, you've got a quick start guide, the manual, a filter, a few screws, and a remote control, which I have to say is pretty small. When it comes to the design, this unit has a clean, modern look. On the front, there's a small display screen with a few buttons that let you control the settings. Now, on the back, this is where the air filtration system is located. But before using it, we need to install the included filter. To do that, just remove the back panel, and inside you'll find the slot for the carbon filter. This filter helps reduce odors and trap some dust and particles. Still on the back, you'll also see the two ports where the exhaust hoses will be connected later. And down at the bottom, there's a small drain plug. This is used to release any water that builds up inside the AC from humidity. This unit is designed to evaporate most of the moisture on its own, but in very humid areas, you might notice some water collecting over time. So now let's move on to the installation. The easiest way to get started is by attaching the four connectors to the hoses. To do this, you'll need to stretch the end of the hose a bit and then twist the connector in, kind of like screwing it on. Keep turning it until it's fully seated at the top. It might not catch right away, so don't worry if it takes a couple of tries. Just keep twisting until it locks into place securely. Now that we've got all four connectors attached to the hoses, we can move on to installing the window panel. You can set this up either horizontally or vertically, depending on the design of your window. In my case, I went with this setup, but I ran into a small issue. One of the panels was blocking the space where the hose needs to go, so I had to make a mark on the panel to cut it. I wanted to find the easiest way to cut the plastic, especially for someone who doesn't have a bunch of tools at home. I first tried using a utility knife with an angle, but the plastic was just too tough. So I ended up using this angle grinder to get the job done. If you don't have one, you can also try using a handsaw, a hacksaw, or even a strong pair of tin snips. It might take a bit more time, but it'll get the job done. Now that we've got the panel cut to the right size, you'll notice we run into another small issue. The panel slides slightly into the window frame. Technically, you could leave it like that, and once you connect the hose, it might stay in place just fine. But since we're trying to do this the right way, let's fix it properly. The kit doesn't include any foam to deal with this kind of gap, so I'm going to use this foam panel that came with the unit as part of the packaging. I'm cutting a few strips from it using a utility knife, and this will help lift the panel just enough and fill the gap where it dips into the window frame. I'm just making sure to pack it in nicely so everything feels secure and sealed. Now, before we screw the panel into place, we need to install these two pieces first. Be careful here because they only fit one way. You have to slide them in from the back like this. Once they're in, you might notice there's a small gap. If you want a tighter seal, you can apply a bit of caulking to fill that space. After that, go ahead and use the 4 screws that came in the kit. Just place one in each hole to secure the panel. Once that's done, you can install the full panel into the window frame and tighten it using the screws. It should fit snugly like this. Now, when you lower the window onto the panel, it usually leaves a small gap between the window and the panel itself. This is something that almost always happens, and honestly, I'm not sure why they don't include a piece of foam to fill that space. So once again, I'm using a bit of the packaging foam to close that gap. Another thing most people don't mention is that when you open a window like this one, it creates a small gap between the two window panes where air can escape. The right way to handle this is to seal that gap too. In my case, I'm using some foam I had left over from another project, but you could also reuse more of the same foam we used earlier. It works just fine. And now, the last step is connecting the hoses. This part is really simple. All you have to do is line up the two tabs on the connector and push it in until you hear a click. It's the same process for both the window panel and the unit itself. One tip I'd recommend here is to leave as little distance as possible between the window and the AC unit. That's because the hoses can get pretty hot when the unit is running, especially the one that expels the hot air. The longer the hose, the more heat it radiates back into the room, which can affect the unit's overall efficiency. So, keeping the hoses short and direct will help the AC cool your space more effectively. Now, one thing I've seen a lot of people get wrong is how they remove the hoses. Most people try to squeeze the locking clips to pull them out, but that's actually the hardest way, and you risk breaking the plastic. The easiest and safest way is to just twist the connector while gently pulling it out. Look how simple it is when you do it that way. Now, we're ready to power it on. At first, I thought the vent on top would lift automatically when you turn the unit on, but I was wrong. It's actually manual. You have to adjust it yourself and angle it wherever you want the air to flow. You can control the settings using the remote or the buttons on the unit, and everything is pretty easy to use. You can set the temperature, switch between Celsius and Fahrenheit, and choose from cooling, fan, or dehumidifier mode. The dehumidifier is actually really useful if you live in a humid area. It helps the room feel cooler and also helps stop mold and that sticky feeling from too much moisture in the air. When it comes to power, this unit feels really strong. It cooled down the room surprisingly fast, and honestly, I was impressed with how well it performed. Now, you might think that having two hoses means it just pulls more air out, but that's not exactly how it works. Here's the deal. Most portable ACs with a single hose pull warm air from the room, cool it, and then push hot air out the window. The problem is that this creates negative pressure, which means warm air from outside or other parts of your home gets sucked right back in, making the unit work harder. With a dual hose system, one hose brings in air from outside to cool down the unit's internal components, and the other hose pushes the hot air back out. This way, it doesn't pull air from inside your room, so there's no negative pressure. That makes the whole system more efficient and helps the room stay cooler for longer without working as hard. When you look at it with a thermal camera, you'll notice that the hose on the left is much hotter than the one on the right, and that makes total sense. The hose on the right is pulling in air from outside, so it stays at around room temperature. Meanwhile, the hose on the left is expelling all the hot air from the unit, which is why it shows up much hotter. So, who is this AC for? Well, I'd say it's perfect for people who want strong, reliable cooling without having to install a full window unit or central air. If you need to cool down a specific area like a bedroom, office, living room, or even a garage. This is a solid option. It gives you the flexibility to move it around, and it's powerful enough to handle spaces up to 500 square feet with no problem. When it comes to power consumption, this unit is rated at 1300 watts. During all my testing, it consistently used between 1000 and 1200 watts, which is pretty solid for the amount of cooling it provides. One thing I really like about this unit is the wheels. They're super responsive. Even though it's on the heavier side, it's actually really easy to move around. Now, the dual hose system does make setup a bit more involved compared to single hose models, but in return, you get better performance and efficiency. As for the weight, it's a little over 70 pounds, and in terms of size, it stands about 35 inches tall, 18.5 inches wide, and the depth is around 7 inches at the top, 11 inches in the middle, and about 15 inches at the bottom. Overall, I'd say this is a great portable AC for anyone who needs serious cooling power in a mid to large size room. It's especially good if you live in a place with high humidity or if you're looking for a more efficient option than the typical single hose models. If you don't mind a bit of extra setup with the dual hoses, the performance you get in return is definitely worth it. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in this product, I will leave the link in the description below so you can check it out. If you decide to purchase using my link, I might earn a small commission, which helps support the channel at no extra cost to you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content.